Welcome to another edition of Northern Heat. My name is Bob Lennon, President of ThermalWood Canada, host for the show. And today our special guest is coming from away. She doesn't really live in Bathurst. She lives outside. Gabriella Logan, welcome to the show today.
Thank you for having me.
So Gabriella, let's tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do, and then we'll talk about how we got together because it's kind of an interesting story too. So give us a little rundown of who you are.
So my name is Gabriella Logan. I go by Guitar Gabby on stage. I am a musician and lawyer. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm the founder of an international Black female rock collective called the Tulips Band. So we do a lot of things music related. I also do a lot of writing for different magazine entities, which is part of how we got connected. And then I also work with artists and musicians to help them understand the laws that govern the industry and how to create careers. So yeah, it's a mouthful, but it's all housed underneath one umbrella.
Yeah, and it's all tied into to music because even on as a performing artist, you've been involved in some background music and stuff, theme songs and stuff for some interesting movies.
Yeah, we had a song placed in Wendell and Wild on Netflix last year or the year before that, and that was a really cool experience. And then also, I recently being 2 years ago, but we're about to do another premiere next weekend. But I worked with Long Island University to produce a student film. So I produced all the music and got to play the lead role, and so that was another cool experience to be able to create music or create in general because we did a lot of things.
Let's talk about the your writing in magazines, and because that's how we've got together. You've been so nice to be able to get two articles in Guitar Girls and in Guitar World that you mentioned us, but it has dealt towards another passion of yours, which is sustainability. So tell us a little bit more of how you got involved and what you do there.
Yeah, so the theme is sustainability. I've always been into nature. I've always been an outdoor girl. So I studied environmental science in my undergrad at Spelman College, and then I studied environmental law and policy at Vermont Law School. So I studied environmental science. So I've always been big on finding ways to connect these industries of entertainment, law, and sustainability, because I find that sustainability is one of those words that is multifaceted. It can mean building guitars and instruments more sustainably, because of where we are in our world and the need for reducing our use of natural resources and finding alternatives. And then sustainability can also mean the way that you're operating, the way that you're moving. So finding different ways to explain sustainability to consumers that are buying instruments, or maybe consumers that are just reading a magazine article to understand and to learn, I think is really important. So I recently got a chance to publish the second piece of Building Green in Guitar World magazine, where we talked with you all, ThermalWood Canada, about Obsidian and the things that you all are doing to create alternatives for manufacturing companies to build more sustainably. So that's been a huge passion of mine, and I'm looking forward to just continuing this conversation in the instrument manufacturing industry, because I think there's a lot of work ahead of us, a lot.
You not only put out articles in different magazines, but you're also an advocate with a lot of these builders at the same time, right?
Yeah, I am. I've worked with a lot of them through a consulting lens to just talk about what does sustainable education look like. When we talk about the consumer piece in particular, I think a lot of musicians out there are buying instruments because of the brand name or because of the company or because of the product. And it's a good product, but how how is the purchase of these products impacting our environment? How are the instruments that are being built every day and scraps being left just because, it has one small thing that looks weird or is not beautiful, depending on what that means to you? How are these things negatively impacting our environment? And I think consumers play a large role that we don't realize that we play, but education is, um, being educated on what sustainability means and how your voice does, in fact, drive what manufacturing companies do. So, using Guitar World magazine as an example, and Guitar Girl magazine as examples of connecting the consumers through education to making those changes within the manufacturing companies. So, I like to work at that in between space.
So do you see a change? Do you see a shift that happening now?
I do. There are a lot of companies that have been making changes, that have been um, finding better ways to, through the supply chain, finding better ways to be more sustainable. For example, when you're planting tree or replanting trees after they've been harvested, to build guitars, there are a lot of companies like Martin that have been doing great and having great initiatives around that. But then also the educational piece, again, working with communities. I know there's a couple of programs that some other manufacturing companies are doing where they're going into communities and giving jobs to people to help throughout the supply chain, and help working with those companies while also creating educational programs to go into schools and teach kids about what does building a guitar even look like, and what are the different ways that we can do that sustainably.
So, how can any one of your readers that are picking up an article or reading about this and they get a little bit interested in it and they're musicians along the way, how can they help? How can what can they do in your words
I
to
think
make a difference?
I think first and foremost, educating yourself is important. A lot of times, people, all of us, it's human nature. If you don't know something, some people want to go and dive in to learn those things, but some people just say, it is what it is, and I'll just not know. I'm one of those people that likes to understand things and likes to find ways to um, create avenues for other people to understand those same things as well. And what I mean by that is using music as a tool to explain sustainability. Because again, I've been one of those people that's been on both sides in the entertainment world and then coming back to working in the sustainability world. And one common theme that I've found by going in between is that people on either side don't think that the other side has anything to do with their side, if that makes sense. So a lot of manufacturing companies, when I first started having these conversations years ago with them, didn't really feel like the music world had anything to do with sustainability and vice versa. But using music as a tool, using the art of creation as a tool to explain these things are actually more connected in more ways than we think. And not only that, but we're at a very pivotal point in our history where we have to make a change. And that is going to come through bands using their voices, big artists using their platforms to explain and just have the conversations, or even platforms like this. Having the conversations is necessary. And I think that that's the starting point. Um, so I think it's possible. I think there has been a lot of change. I think there's more change ahead of us that can be made, but I think knowledge is power and we got to start there.
Well, and that's a great message to give out to our listeners that they can make a difference. Now, let's get back to talk about you a little bit because you mentioned it a minute ago, artist side to working in the industry, but you also bring to the table a law degree. So how does this all fit into to the work that you're doing, and who are your clients?
So my clients range from working with different manufacturing companies, again, on the sustainability piece, and then also working with artists to understand not just the laws that govern the industry that they're in, that they want to build careers in. But once we get into those pockets, I really love to push artists to find other innovative ways to, one, have multiple streams of income and not just put all your eggs in one basket, being the entertainment industry or being this one contract. But let's find other things that you're passionate about that you might not even know that you're passionate about, but through conversations like this, or watching podcast, or listening to podcasts, or reading an article in a magazine, you start to think about, you know what, I've always been a community person. I'm also a musician. I never thought about how those things can combine themselves. Let me go and volunteer at an environmental education workshop, at a camp down the street from where I live. So through conversations with musicians, working through contracts, working through intellectual property registrations, I've also been able to expose them to other ideas of how they can take passions of theirs, um, whether it's something that is as direct as sustainability, or whether it's something that is as direct as education, through whatever other lens, and combining those things to make sense to them.
Well, this is it's very inspiring to listening to you and seeing how you've been able to take, uh, a profession that would not necessarily tie into everything that you've talked about, is sustainability and helping artists and helping manufacturers to be able to pull things and having the same goals. And it's very impressive on what you've been able to do. And I want to thank you for doing that because there's not a whole pile of people out there doing that, I don't think. And so now you're starting to pull them together. There are some groups, and you and I have also talked to a group, Reverb, that are looking at, again, educating bands and stuff to look at, and they've got a different angle, right?
Yeah, they do. And I love that. And I think that's the thing that I love about the world of possibilities. And I look at law and entertainment. I look through a creative lens at all of it. And Reverb is a great example because their angle has been when they have festivals or when they're going to set up booths, they're having these environmental villages where they're having artists perhaps bring things like boxes that they would have just thrown away and bring them here to be able to be recycled and used for something new. And now we're not only recycling, but we're also educating attendees on what is recycling, what does that mean, why is it important, and what do you have at home that can probably be recycled. And now those people are also part of the big vehicle of change that is necessary. I also think that a lot of consumers um, think that or often feel like I'm so low on the totem pole of being a person that buys something from these huge companies. What change can I even make? Recycling a box isn't going to do anything. But that is indeed where it starts. It's the little things that add up to the bigger things. And companies like Reverb, you all, what I'm doing are all necessary in order for us to, again, make those changes. And one person can't do it. One company can't do it. All of us have to work together.
No, you're absolutely right. And there's a link there in Reverb and what you've talked about today to Bathurst. And this past summer, we have a summer festival every year. It's called Hospitality Days. And this year, the band that we had was Barenaked Ladies. And Barenaked Ladies is a, pretty big band in Canada. I'm not sure how big they are in the US, but they are also one of the members of Reverb. And when I was talking to the organizers, they were saying that before the band got here, they had a few things on their rider. And one of the things was to have real dishes and real glasses. They didn't want stuff that was going to be thrown into a bin at the end. They wanted something that could be washed and everything. And at first, I wasn't sure what that all was about till I made the connection to them to Reverb, and I went, all right, this is how they're educating themselves. This is how they're passing the word out to others. So it's what you're talking about has a direct link to something that people seen here this summer, which is great.
Yeah. Yeah. And having actual glassware versus single-use products is another great example of it starts at home. It starts in our practices. It's in our everyday things. Are you taking a fork, using it and throwing it away, or are you getting a pack of recyclable utensils that you can carry around with you? It's little things like that.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. So listen, again, I want to thank you for all the work that you're doing. I want to thank you for being on the show today too, to educate us a little bit more and the people that we reach out to and our followers, to let them know what this is all about, let them know that there are things that they can do, and they can follow you and see some of the articles you're putting out in a lot of the magazines out there. I wish you the best of luck in the work that you're doing. As a musician, as a lawyer, as an advocate, I wish you the best in everything. And be safe out there, too, with all the hurricanes and everything else that are coming up your way. This is just incredible.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you all and what the work that you all do. And I'm looking forward to partnering more and getting this whole mission out there and getting more people activated.
Well, there we have it. Another edition of Northern Heat for this week, the place you come to listen to the stories that haven't been discovered yet. Perfect.